It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, brought to you by Thompson Sales and the Pitch Pizza and Pub. Here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I'm Scott Puryear. As always, thank you for tuning in. We're going to try something new today, but we've already lost one of our guests. It looks like Corey Riggs is there. He is. We lost you for a second, Corey. We had that problem last week with Art, and I thought Art was just messing with me, but turned out it was actually technical difficulties. But again, thanks for everybody for tuning in. Big thanks to our sponsors, the Pitch Pizza and Pub, Thompson Sales. We'll talk more about those two sponsors at the end of the podcast. But as I mentioned, we're going to try something kind of fun and different now. We're going to call it Four Guys, Four Topics. We're going to bring in every few weeks some of the local media guys, faces and voices you recognize in the Ozarks. We'll throw four topics out there and kind of give our thoughts, our debates, whatever we think on those. So we welcome in regular guest Chris Parker from the Ozarks Sports Zone, Ozone, Chris Parker. Sully Engels, the sports director at KY3, and Corey Riggs, the new voice of Missouri State Athletics. Guys, thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here.
You betcha. And Sully, I think you are remotely – are you in California? Is that right?
I am in California right now. I'm taking a rare week away during football season to go back home for a little bit for some family celebration. It's a tough time of year to miss. You know, there's so much going on from Missouri State to the high school scene and everything in between, but we're sneaking it in here real fast.
So if Parker didn't have enough to do, you're taking off in September on him, right?
Well,
that's good.
Here's the thing: is Parker and I did a 1-for-1 swap. As last week he stepped away to wet his whistle a little bit on the East Coast, play a little golf and celebrate one of his buddies. So
Nice.
We've been picking up each other's slack. You know, it's like when someone goes on the IR for a couple weeks in the NFL, someone steps up. We're doing it on a kind of shorter term basis here. But, you know, it's a team effort either way.
So you're the Hollywood Brown to Parker Xavier Worthy right now, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
I would hope that we performed better so far in 2025 than those two guys. But in that sense, yes.
Absolutely. Well, and wanted to start off, you know, we got word today and we were talking a little bit about it before we came on, but one of our good friends and local sports legend, Marty Prather, you know, there was a tweet or whatever you call it now on Twitter, X, by Barry Henson, the former Bears coach. Prayers for Marty, going through some health issues. And Corey, you said he is here in town, not in St. Louis, right? Corey, can you hear me? We've lost Corey there. We were talking earlier about the fact that Marty is Parker. I think that's what we confirmed earlier, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and so we don't really know what's going on with Marty, but our thoughts and prayers with him. Guy that's the sign man, is known by most people, and of course, longtime supporter of Missouri State sports, local high school teams, their fundraisers, and recently, secretly, Arkansas Razorbacks. Marty's got several Domino's locations down there now, so he's having to kind of split some time. But Corey, can you hear us now? We're going to drop Corey out here just a second and see if we can get him to come back in. But so guys, we'll kind of carry on here. And as we mentioned, four guys, four topics. I think we'll start off with some Kansas City Chiefs talk. Chiefs are 0-2, the first time, in the Mahomes era, I believe, since he came in 17. And you know, didn't look real good either time, hung right in there. They have no offensive weapons. I guess the question is, whoever wants to chime in, should there be time for panic in the streets right now with KC? Sully, why don't you start?
Yeah, I'll start it off. I was at the game on Sunday, so kind of seeing that in person, seeing what the Chiefs played like as compared to, you know, the last 7 years of football from Patrick Mahomes and that crew with Andy Reid. I don't know that it's time to panic quite yet. I think this team has enough experience to kind of weather a storm like this. You know, I wouldn't say that they are frustrated overall with like, we're not going to be able to make the playoffs, we're going to lose this streak in the division, all those types of things. They know that all of that is still in front of them, even if the Chargers look much improved, as well as the Broncos and the Raiders in that division. But, I mean, it's clear to see with that offense, it's pretty stagnant for most of the games. If you take away the long bomb for the touchdown that they had in that game, the offense wasn't very pretty. You had the drop by Travis Kelce on the goal line that then goes the other way into an interception. Kelce obviously doesn't look like the peak of his career or anywhere close to that at this point. So you kind of need those other weapons. And, having the injuries that they've had and obviously a suspension on top of that to Rashee Rice, there's maybe things that you think you're going to get guys back and you're going to feel better about it. But at the same time, Patrick Mahomes has made a career so far of doing less with more. And he has some capable guys out there. They just haven't really been able to put things together. And then when it comes to the Eagles, I mean, you saw that's obviously the standard in the NFL. Not that the Chiefs aren't, but they're the Super Bowl champs. They hand it to the Chiefs again, this time on their home turf. So I don't think it's time to panic yet, but there's certainly some adjustments that need to be made. And that's something that they easily can do as they face the Giants, even on the road this week, in a team that they should take care of.
Corey, I mentioned this kind of half jokingly on Twitter that Kelce looks cooked. And he may be betting against the Chiefs because he takes out Worthy in week 1. He drops a touchdown pass. It becomes an interception in week 2. What are your thoughts on the Chiefs at the 0-2 start? And is it just kind of a hold on now till you get the reinforcements back offensively?
Well, I think there's something to that. I think the narrative that I've seen play out nationally, though, is the one that really bothers me, which is, does Andy Reid not have it anymore? Is the play calling not what it used to be? People are already calling to question Matt Nagy and what he's doing with the Chiefs offense. I think it has been a really bizarre sequence of events. The Chiefs don't normally have to deal with injuries like this, let alone this early in this season. You also get a Super Bowl rematch 2 weeks into the year against a team that didn't really lose anything. They're not having to deal with their top wide receiver serving a suspension. Travis Kelce looked physically as good coming into camp as he has in the last couple of years. So I'm not ready to hit the panic button on it yet, but it's definitely head scratching to try and figure out why they're not more effective right now offensively. And maybe the bigger thing is everybody, all the little brothers there in the AFC West have gotten better. So your room for error this year is not, I think, as great as what it's been in years past because the Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders have all gotten better. I don't think they're as good as the Chiefs, but they've caught up.
Yeah, and Chris, I called you Chris. You're always Parker to me. I don't even know why. I didn't know you had a first name. You're like Pele and Madonna, Parker. But is this a division now where 9 and 8 may win it because they're all going to beat up on each other because everybody has gotten better?
I think so. And I think the big thing with the Chiefs is it seems like that air of invincibility was kind of punctured by that Super Bowl. Like, I don't know if teams are walking in afraid of them like they used to be. And that was a leg up every time you came in there. And the other side of this is with the Chiefs, as someone who's watched them, as not a fan, but just a neutral observer, is there is a luck factor involved in this. Going whatever it was, 10-0 or something in one-score games, there's regression that's going to come from that. And I think you're seeing some of that regression this year. And also, as Corey alluded to, the injury luck. None of their Pro Bowl guys, they've suffered injuries, sure, but nobody you would call a top 7, 8 guy on the roster has missed significant time. And that's just an unsustainable amount of luck involved. Everybody suffers those injuries eventually. The Chiefs have just been very fortunate. So I think you're getting a lot of that regression plus some of the luck. I mean, how many times have we watched the Chiefs and that ball Kelce drops just hits the ground? Yeah. This year it got caught. And so there's just something a little bit different. I will go out on a limb and say this week feels like a must win for them with the Ravens coming the next week. You got to win this game even on the road because you can't go 0-3 facing the Ravens in week 4.
And, if everybody says the NFL loves the Chiefs, so they didn't do many favors with this schedule, that's starting out. I mean, and of course, the Rashee Rice suspension starting, he didn't do himself any favors on that one by being stupid. But, one of the alarming things to me, and I don't know, I hate when Corey sees my tweets because he figures out real quick who I've got on my fantasy team and who I'm mad at, and I can't for the life of me figure out, why not give Pacheco 10 or 15 carries just to see if he gets in a rhythm and is the Isaiah Pacheco of 2 years ago, because it just seems like they try him, and then here comes Kareem Hunt with his walker out there, 30 years old, and they don't let anybody get in a rhythm. Does anybody agree with that? Corey, you were nodding yes.
I agree with that, and I'll take it one step further too, Scott. Remember, the Kansas City Chiefs get all the calls, right? That's been the narrative for 2 or 3 years. The referees love the Chiefs. They go to Coldplay concerts with Patrick Mahomes and the White Hat. We didn't get any calls against the Eagles. Eagles got the calls. That's something that comes with being the champ. So I'm curious to see if that narrative changes any this year either.
Absolutely. So big trip to New York to play the G-Men. Russell Wilson turned back the clock 10 years at the Cowboys, which I don't know if that was letting Russ cook or let the Cowboys fry, because their defense is awful. But big one for them, and should be fun. Is that Sunday Night Football this week?
It is.
Yes, it is Sunday Night Football. And Scott, I will say to your point about Isaiah Pacheco there too.
Yeah.
When I look at football minds greater than myself on social media, especially a lot of guys that are very familiar with the running game, I think a lot of Pacheco's problems is his ability, or I would say inability, to kind of find the hole and follow the blocks there. The Chiefs have a pretty good line at this point, and they've got depth to that as well. And Pacheco, he's such a head down runner. Sometimes I think, he needs I think the best example that we've seen maybe on the Chiefs in the NFL for a while is Le'Veon Bell, who's so patient in the backfield, waiting for things to develop. Kareem Hunt, I think, is a little better at that, but he, as you mentioned, not near the athlete that Pacheco is. Coming off the injury as well, I don't know if there's a hesitation to run head down like he did his rookie year, but that's a big part of that offense that's missing too. When you look at the Eagles, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, obviously they've got a play that is always going to take care of that short yardage distance and that situation. I don't think the Chiefs have that, and it kind of puts back to that point of pressure on Mahomes to make magic and get themselves into situations where they don't have to worry about those critical 3rd and short distances. So they need to figure something out. I mean, that's the thing too. They're not going to win a Super Bowl or even sniff it if they don't have an established run game, and they really don't through 2 weeks. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is your leading rusher. He got 63 yards in the first half, pretty much none in the second half. That's no running. And obviously, they weren't down a ton. It wasn't like you just go straight to that air raid offense. You need to have the balance in that offense. That's what Andy Reid does so well. But I don't know if it's a personnel problem compared to a play calling problem, and that's something they got to figure out, and they got to figure out fast.
Well, and if Mahomes keeps averaging about 60 yards a game on the ground and leading them with about 10 carries, we're going to see Minshew magic pretty quick here instead of Mahomes magic. I don't think anybody in Kansas City really wants that. So move on to topic 2. Let's talk high school football. Of course, that's right in the wheelhouse of Parker and you, Sully, and the KY3 and Ozone staff. I was going to have one thing on the Chiefs. I bet your sales staff just hates it when the schedule comes out and there's Sunday Night Football with the Chiefs, right? Just not really much sales opportunity there. But as somebody who came from those days. But high school football. Parker, who's caught your eye so far in the first 3 weeks? We knew going in Nixa was going to be really good, probably the favorite in Class 6, maybe statewide after finishing as runner-up last year. Kind of give us a rundown on who the eye-openers are for Chris Parker and the Ozone so far.
I'm a voter on the state poll, so I look throughout all the state all year and make those votes and everything. And so we got 3 number 1s in Southwest Missouri, with Nixa in Class 6, Seneca in Class 3, and Marionville down in Class 1. And those are kind of the 3 standard bearers right now. But the one team, kind of fringy there, but Thayer is one to watch in Class 1. They were the smallest Class 2, still is a big Thayer fan. They were the smallest Class 2 team last year, and they are this year one of the 2 largest Class 1 enrollments. That's a huge advantage for them. They bring back 2 1,000-yard rushers. Those SCA schools just always show up in the postseason. I think Thayer is a real threat to win a state title. And then the other big change this year, the eye-opening thing for me was how the districts landed. And especially in our local District 5 for Class 5, District 6 is what it is. In the last few years, Carthage and Webb have gone to Kansas City, and Republic and Branson have stayed here. This year, Carthage, Webb, Republic, Branson, all in the same district. They moved them back together. And so that's, Carthage, Webb, Republic. One of those is, for my money, going to be the number 1 seed in that district, and someone else has to play a really tough semifinal opponent. So seeing some of that redistricting was really something that stood out. And yeah, Carthage is number 3, Webb is number 4, and Republic is number 6 in the Class 5 ranking. So that district is brutal. That conference is brutal. Those are kind of some of the highlight things so far.
Nixa opens with wins over Republic, Webb City, and Joplin. I think Carthage is up this week for them. Handled Republic late after Republic did their usual control the entire first quarter with one drive or most of it. But Nixa looks a little vulnerable to the defensively to the ground game. If somebody lines up and just runs at them, Webb City kept it close that way. Joplin had it a 1-score game in the final 5 minutes. Sully, has that caught your eye that maybe Nixa needs to get a little better on defense to run the table like we think?
Yeah, I think the benefit of being in the Central Ozark Conference is you get to play a great or at least solid high school level team week in and week out and really test yourself. And it's, comparable in college ranks to the SEC when it comes to our area. It's always going to be a battle week in and week out. And right now, obviously Nixa is sort of, I would say Georgia or Alabama from years ago, and they are tested every week and they get everyone's best effort every single week. Everyone's got that game circled. It feels like a rivalry every time that they play. So I'm not as worried about them. I think they need to continue to play the ball that they have dominated with it over the last, season and a quarter now. And obviously adding the running back that they added is going to make a big deal there. Adam McKnight is taking a step forward. You still have a good chunk of that offensive line. The defense definitely has room to grow, but that's what you want to do throughout a season. You don't want to be at your best week 1 and 2. You want to be closer to week 14 when you're going up to play for a state championship, hopefully. And then beyond that, in that conference too, the teams they've played have been solid across the board. Republic, we've mentioned, of course. I think they have a great chance, even though Parker mentioned the difficulties with those districts and just that class in general. When you have a veteran quarterback like that, those are always the teams that succeed at the high school level. Parker stole my thunder mentioning Thayer, switching up the classes there, because I have been high on Thayer since I saw them this summer. 2,000-yard running backs there. And really have added almost a third there. So they have a plethora of offensive weapons. And then a big game this weekend that I know Parker has mentioned as well, maybe not here, but has talked about it, is Carl Junction and Logan Rogersville. Joel Wells taking over there for the Wildcats has got them off to a 3-0 start. First time since 2011 that they're 3-0. That year they won a state title. We don't know if this team is as good to do something like that, but a great test this week taking on Carl Junction on the road. I also, just teams I've seen, Ash Grove has been impressive. They've dominated just about every game they've played in, but they're going to have to eventually run into some tough ones in Class 1 as well when you talk about Thayer and Marionville down the line. And I think that there's been an overall improvement in the city, since I've been here the last season and a half. Obviously, the Joplin area football teams have been better than the Springfield area teams, but I think Glendale's on the rise. I think Ozark is on the rise. Lebanon, obviously, a well-established program. The wins haven't come across the board yet, but I think they certainly have taken steps to get closer to the level they need to be at to succeed when it comes to Missouri State football.
We'll get Corey back here in just a second. Parker, I was with a couple buddies from God's country this morning, McDonald County. We need to get a little more love down to the Mustangs after their opening win at Lamar, which shocked America. He was telling me they've got, I believe, Nevada coming up this week, and that's a good test for them. And then Seneca in a couple weeks. I think Monette may be sandwiched in there. Are the Mustangs one of those under the radar teams?
We'll find out this week. That's the thing. The Lamar win was really nice. Come from behind. They were down 9 with 8 minutes left. Ryder Martin, their quarterback, led them back. That was a Lamar team that was still trying to find its footing. They not only lost a lot on the field, but they lost their longtime defensive coordinator. He'd been there for 15, 20 years. So they're getting some new stuff there. Still a really great win for them. But I think this week you're really going to learn a lot. Nevada coming off a tough loss to Seneca last week, where Seneca ran for 500 yards in the game. But I'm picking. I think I had McDonald County in the picks this week, and that's who I'm going with. But I could see that game going either way. And just a real quick flip back on Nixa, I think you hit it on the head with kind of the defense. Webb City, they run a college level stat program every game they play. And some numbers that jumped out in that Webb City game specifically, because I don't always have time of possession and stuff from all these games. But Webb City had the ball for 29 minutes to 18 for Nixa.
Yeah.
Webb City ran 55 plays to 37 for Nixa, and the difference was really that one turnover that Webb City had, and Nixa had none. So that's something that really jumps out, is that they need to be getting off the field. They can't let those teams sustain the drives, and that's what's kind of holding back some of those offensive numbers we're used to, is because teams are able to stay on the field a little bit longer than normal, than they have been in the past. But yeah, that's kind of what jumped out to me about Nixa.
We're having
I will say,
what's that?
I would just say too, to that point though about Nixa as well, they have scored, I would say, just in my eyes, so fast on so many possessions, thanks to Jaden McCaster, the running back, or Adam McKnight airing it out. Sometimes it's like they create a problem for themselves. Like they put their defense on the field back before they even have an opportunity to rest, because they get such a quick score, and then it kind of grinds the rest of the game where it gets tougher. So it's a strange problem to have, where they're almost, it's great to have the success you have on offense, but it also makes those defensive guys, like you mentioned, time of possession, the amount of plays they're out there for, it increases that for them because they score so quickly a couple times a game.
One of the interesting things about this podcast is the Where's Waldo we're playing with Corey Riggs. Apparently, Patrick Ransdale has let him escape from his dungeon room at Hammond Center. Corey, can you hear us? I guess Corey's lost audio again. We'll try to add him and get him back. It looks like he can't. And now they're turning the lights on. Corey, can you hear us? Corey, can you hear us? He can't. Okay, I'm going to take him out. And the magic of this has got to be a Meyer Communications thing or something. Everybody who ever set foot in the studio is now cursed for technology. One other thing on the high school football that I wanted to touch on. Number one, about Nixa, I don't think Adam McKnight has the receivers he's had in the past. So, you had a Cale Combs or a Wyatt Vincent or somebody. They need somebody to step up and be that go-to when they know they've got to get a touchdown. But number two, it drives me nuts with the whole two platoon thing that apparently is a must now for large schools. I look at a Marionville and probably Lamar and you got guys that are going both ways, and they're not dying. I mean, they're not collapsing on the field from exhaustion. It just, if you're going to get run at, literally bull rushed by a opposing team, maybe it might be cool to have a short yardage defensive package of maybe you could bring 600 to 900 pounds of offensive linemen in and clog up the middle. Any thoughts on that from you guys?
Hey, I would be all about it. Use your best players at the times. I mean, I talked to some coaches in the I talked to Coach Frank Tristan in the preseason about, they got a couple receivers, Joel Rover and Trevor Heeman, and he was talking about how they play a position and a half, that they're not going to have him go both ways all the time, but he doesn't want to lose a game because his best athletes are sitting next to him on the sideline.
Yeah.
And I agree with that completely there. You don't need to run. You wouldn't need to run Cantwell or Mays both ways all the time. But like you said, in key packages where it's going to be a run, have them go stuff up those lanes and take up some of those gaps. And I think it would be I would like to see it. But I also, I get why they're not doing it. They've got the system they want to run and the style they want to do it.
Well, and I get it from the standpoint, if you're John Perry, you got 120 kids in uniform. Mm-hmm. And if you're playing the same 15 to 20, you're not going to have 120 kids the next year and the next year and the next year. So it's a tough dilemma, but I think when it gets down to it, if this trend continues where people can run right at them and eat up 5, 6, 7 minutes of clock, there may be some packages when they get into the districts and playoffs where you see 325 pounds of Jackson Cantwell run out there and play nose guard. I don't know if they have to call Miami and get permission on that, or if that's a text down there. But you know what? He's a high school Nixa Eagle now. Win football games now and worry about that later. So,
yeah,
Corey, can you hear us now? Corey, are you back with us? Corey? I think Corey's still having audio issues, so we're going to take him out. If people are watching this, it's got to be intriguing where Corey's going to pop up on the screen. So hopefully we'll get him back and have him add in there again. But so it'd be interesting to watch district-wise. And we talk about Nixa. Parker, who's in their way the further down the road you get? I mean, who are the Lee Summit Norths of this year?
Well, you're looking at, they've actually got a pretty fortunate path because they avoid the St. Louis path this year. because this year, so they rotated every year. So if you're looking at on Misha, there's 8 districts, and so this year 1 through 4, one of those is going to the final, or 1 through 4 is going, or I know it's insides and outs. But at any rate, their tough matchup would looks like it'd be Blue Springs South. That would be a state quarterfinal matchup for them. Blue Springs South or Blue Springs, both highly rated in the state rankings. I think Blue Springs South right now is the class of Kansas City. But you would avoid like Liberty North, Lee Summit North, CBC, DeSmet. Those are all only for the state championship. So, and then their quarterfinal looks to be against some teams that from a couple weaker districts 3 and 4, which I don't think have any ranked teams as of right now. So they've got a pretty clear path if they can get by Blue Springs South or Blue Springs. But again, that district something weird always seems to happen in that Kansas City district. Those teams are familiar with each other. Rockbridge, Hickman, Helias Catholic is in there. They moved up. They moved up from class 5 to class 6 this year. But I would say Blue Springs South is probably their biggest threat prior to the state title game.
That was Lee Summit North that was so hot 2-3 years ago, right? With Jamar Mosey, wasn't that the coach? And his kid was the receiver, and Winery was the number 1 DN in the country. Well, Winery took the money and ran straight to Columbia. Didn't hardly do squat. He's in Nebraska now. Mosey, I think, isn't he an assistant coach at Nebraska?
I'm unsure about that exactly.
I think his kid transferred from Oregon to there. It's funny how these things play out and usually different completely from what you thought was going to happen there. But Corey, are you back with us?
I don't know. I'm probably going to throw this phone into a
we have Corey Riggs
on my way home. I don't know.
The biggest saga we've had going on is where you were going to be, because we saw you walking down the hallway, and it was almost like that. What's that Jennifer Hudson show? We kind of wanted you to dance down the hallway coming in or something there. But
technical support is not my foray, man. I'm not an IT guy.
Well, and to touch on this before we move on, we were talking about Nixa and the 2 platoon system, and teams are lining up and running at them right now, and they're getting 4 and 5 yards at a time, eating up clock. Parker said the Webb City time of possession was 33 to something to 18, 29.
It was a 29 to 18 minutes, 55 plays to 37.
Yeah, you can't win games down the road like that. You did such a great job covering high schools and MediaCom, those Friday night games forever. What are your thoughts on the larger schools and 2 platoon systems where kids are mostly playing one side of the ball?
I mean, we've seen it all, right? It's I've always kind of favored the smaller schools and the guys that have to be the starting fullback and the starting inside linebacker, the starting quarterback and the starting free safety. I don't know that platooning it is necessarily a bad thing, but I think most schools have a limited number of great athletes. And in basketball, you don't come off the floor if you're great. You stay, you play offense, you play defense. I would like to see the best guys stay out there, but I understand why a lot of coaches want to do it. It also cuts the number of opportunities to get injured in half. And you want to have those guys at the end of the season. I would say if you're doing it this time of year, it's fine as long as you're winning. But toward the end of the season, you want the best 11 on the field that you can have. And sometimes that means it's a guy that's playing on both sides of the ball.
If we were doing around the horn, you'd hear bloop, 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 on the points for the injury thing. That's a good point. And I'll just close with this. The best 2-way player I ever covered was Mark Smith at Webb City. And he was
Mark Smith at Webb.
Yeah, a linebacker that went to Arkansas and was an all-SEC linebacker, and a quarterback at Webb City that he would pitch the ball and he would find somebody to go try to kill with a block. And I miss those football players. Corey, you saw him. He was one of a kind. Yeah.
He was a year before me in school. Go ahead, Chris.
Joplin, the year they went to the Class 6 title game, Isaiah Davis, who's now a New York Jet, linebacker, running back. Zach Westmoreland, who ended up playing FBS football, wide receiver, cornerback. They ran their best guys out there both ways when it mattered most.
I know he's a quarterback and it's a different world now, but you can't tell me Adam McKnight wouldn't be hell on wheels as a safety or a linebacker over there, especially if you gave him a chance to hit people if he was mad about what happened on offense, you know? So, but anyway, we get it. We understand. It's
Hey,
just
quarterbacks are sneaky, the meanest guys out there because they get hit all the time. They want a chance to hit somebody back. They need a chance to hit somebody
exactly.
back.
You know, Herman Boone sent Sunshine out there to play safety in the state championship game. And I don't think they completed another pass, did they? And remember the Titans at that point. So, I mean,
They did not.
Maybe Adam McKnight's Sunshine, you got to put him out there, you know, at some point in the secondary. But anyway, we lost Corey again. That's a shocker. Moving on to topic 3, we're going to talk some baseball. Springfield Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals. St. Louis Cardinals are 74-78, fourth place out of the 5 teams in the NL Central. Kind of been the year that everybody expected when they came out and said they weren't really going to try this year at the start and we're building for the future. Meanwhile, Springfield Cardinals are back in the Texas League playoffs for the 3rd straight year. That starts up next week. I believe it's Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, with Tuesday in Tulsa, Thursday, and then Friday, if necessary, here in Springfield. Sully, have you guys got out much? I know you guys carry a game on there. Your thoughts on the Springfield Cardinals? And I guess the question is, do the Cardinals still seemingly have the grip on Southwest Missouri as this area's team, or is that slipping?
Well, I will say you provided me a pretty good example of the lack of interest right off the top. Spring Cards played their first playoff game yesterday.
Oh,
they won. They'll play game 2 at home tomorrow on Thursday. So I mean
that is this week.
That's what I mean. That's sort of the point right there. It's hard to gauge the interest of people in the area, even ones that follow sports and care about baseball. And I think that's kind of the problem, not only here in Cardinals country, but across the country. You know, as a lot of baseball fans are older, they're trying to get youth more involved. But at the same time, you look at football. The Chiefs are so dominant in this area now. Everyone cares about them so much. It's sort of hard to spark that love for the game that I felt like so many kids had, even just my age, in my early 30s. It's definitely dwindling a little bit. So when it talks about the big league club, you know, it should be a time that would be exciting to people in Springfield and Missouri. You have all this great talent that's come through Springfield this year. Number 1 overall prospect, JJ Weatherhold, who's now just knocking on the doorsteps of the majors in AAA. Obviously, Liam Doyle is here now in Springfield. He's the number 2 prospect for the Cardinals. An electric 97-mile-per-hour arm that is just a bulldog on the mound and fun to watch. And it's like, if that can't get fans juiced up, it's hard to think that the Major League club is going to have any success after that. We've seen the record lows in attendance for the Cardinals this year. And you kind of nailed it on the head to start as well. Like, they told you before the season, they're not going to play for 2025. And they're not going to do the things they need to do to be competitive. Sure, you could say now, well, look, in retrospect, the Cubs and Brewers are great. They're 2 of the best teams in the entire major leagues. But you never know what could happen because the Cardinals are only 3.5 back of a wild card spot. Is that one good starting pitcher, another bat? When you think about the WAR equivalency of that, it very well could be. And it very well could be something they could have done at the deadline. I think they made the choice, and it is the right choice, to keep the youth and think about 26 and 27 rather than go for 25. But at the same time, you need to put out a product and you need to make guarantees to the fans that they're going to be good those years so that they can get through a bad year like this and not kind of dump on the front office, which obviously there's changes on the way. Mosaic is coming out and all those types of things. But, you know, it's a hyper fast world we live in. And it's not like 30, 40 years ago where it's like, I'm going to stick with this one team the entire time until I die. I think the youth that take in sports are much more flexible than people of a different generation. And I don't think the Cardinals realize, you know, they've had such a stronghold on the area that it could slip if they don't do.
Now it looks like Sully's frozen up on us there. We're having all kinds of technical difficulties. Parker, it's last man standing, you and I. And excuse me, I want to apologize for my loss of time on that, thinking that it was next week. I got my dates wrong, but I just went to their website and they don't have yesterday's result on their website yet. So I would say 3:00 this afternoon, maybe would be a good time to probably have that updated, but they are back. I did make a trip over there this year. I went to actually to watch when Jack Caglione was in town. So that was my my time over there. I think we got Sully back now. Sully, you with us?
I got you. Did you hear much of what I said?
I did, and it was
Okay.
it was radio. It was webcast gold. It was. So,
Well, good.
Parker,
But
you
yeah,
got anything to add on the Cardinals?
Just for me, it's Bloom coming in is, I think, a very good thing. This team has become, with the failures of the Arozarena trade, the Gallen trade, the Alcantara trade, they become afraid to trade their guys. They don't trust their own ability to evaluate their dudes. And I think with a new guy coming in with a little bit more confidence, maybe they can make some moves that are necessary. I mean, they've got their OPS this year was 26th in the league, 25th at 692. They need to figure out the hitting. And the other thing is they've got all this young talent, but it seems when it matriculates to the major league level, a la Jordan Walker, something breaks. Something goes wrong there. The player development, there's not a cohesion, and they just stall out, and then they end up somewhere else. And Harrison Bader goes over to the Phillies, and he's a star for them right now. That kind of thing. Like there's so many examples of guys who got away once they got to the majors that go on to find great success elsewhere. And I think that's the thing they've got to fix first, because right now they're just not an exciting team. Who are you getting excited about if you're watching the Cardinals? Who's the guy? Like, I mean, I'm a Braves fan, so I look forward to seeing Ronald Acuna. I mean, Sully is a Dodgers fan, so he roots for the house when he goes to Vegas. And there's just a bunch of things.
You're telling me you don't get excited to see Yoel Pozo play baseball 7 days a week? You're telling me it doesn't get you a little fired up to watch Miles Michaelis go 5 innings of full-run baseball out there, Parker? Maybe you need to think about where your fandom stands. Well, I guess being a Braves fan, you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, that's a great point there too. I think it's like what's the most exciting player? Is it Mason Wynn? Is it Wilson Contreras? I mean, Wynn, at least I'll give you, makes great defensive plays, but I don't know.
Which player are the kids going out pretending to be? Like,
yeah,
when
Lars,
they play
I'm in Lars Newt bar. I mean, it was supposed to be Arenado, but it just hasn't been. And we talked to him last week in Springfield, and he's like, not that he was non-committal about the Cardinals, but it didn't seem like he knew that the writing was on the wall, that they want to be younger and that they are not going to give him buku bucks to just stick around and figure things out.
Corey Waldo Riggs is on the move again, headed outside. I think where's Waldo? He is outside of Hammond Student Center right now. Corey, we need you for topic 4. Great, a lot of fun last Saturday. Missouri State football home opener, their first home game as an FBS school. Crowd of 15,000 plus at Plaster Sports Complex to watch Southern Methodist University come in. Before we get into the football part of it, of course, monumental day with the final official broadcast by Art Haynes as voice of the Bears. I didn't get to hear the sign off. Corey, how did the end of that go for you and for Art?
Well, honestly, Scott, I think I was more emotional than Art was. I kind of got choked up. He thanked me for doing what I've done and working with him for the last 2 or 3 years. And then he really kind of summed up everything in about a 45-second clip. Sully was there. Mike Keltner was there. Me, Art, and Art's daughter, Kathleen. It was just kind of a crowd of about 5 or 6 of us, which seemed kind of odd given the magnitude of what was going on and his final sign off. But he did it as eloquently as you would have expected. And it's kind of hard to believe that we've finally gotten to that point. It's the only voice I've ever known. It's the only voice a couple of generations have ever known when it comes to this. Most people like me didn't get a chance to grow up and hear Vern Hawkins. All I've ever known is Art Haynes.
Well, and a nice tribute. The video was wonderful that you guys all did for him. And there's a void out there with no sports talk from 4 to 6 p.m. Just a ridiculously bad decision by Zimmer Communications to kill that show off and to kill it off the way they did, the final day. But it's hard now. I mean, with Wyatt Wheeler gone, and no sports talk. I mean, Parker, the Ozone ought to be rolling right now because you guys are the the place to go find scores and information. And now the News Leader apparently has decided that if they can find a kid anywhere in the continental U.S. that can watch it on TV, he can write a story. And it's just a sad state of affairs. But really, really great to see Art get to call that game and a competitive game. And that's kind of where I'm going with this, Corey, is I fully expected SMU to come in here pissed off about losing to Baylor and overtime and letting it get away in the fourth quarter, and not really wanting to be here anyway because it's Springfield, Missouri, and a first-year FBS school. And I thought they'd come in and it'd be similar to the USC game. And it was absolutely 180 from that. A 10-0 Bears lead in the second quarter, 28-10 the final. What did you take away from that in terms of expectations? Now, how many wins are realistic? And, 15,000 for that game on a 92-degree day. What about the crowd? Will they retain the crowd, you think, going through in this first historic season?
Yeah, let me try to split it up and respond to all of that. One, I think this team can win 5 games this year. I really do. I think watching them play against Marshall, what watching them play against SMU has told me is we're going to feel good when we get to Conference USA play. I really believe that. Liberty's supposed to be one of the top teams in this league. They got beat by Bowling Green the other day. I think we'd all be have our heads spinning if we thought the Bears lost to Bowling Green. So I like where Ryan Beard has this team right now. I love the crowd. I love the game day environment. I'm hearing on campus right now that we can have the same crowd, and it's as crazy as it's the same family weekend. We can have the same size crowd Saturday night for Tennessee Martin that we had for SMU, which is a crazy thought. But if we can have another 15,000 under the light this time, and what will be a lot of reasons to stick around for the second half, it won't be 100 degrees, and the Bears should probably. So I like where they're at right now, and right now being at Blaster Stadium is a lot of fun.
Again, a little audio difficulty there, Corey. We're going to chip in and buy you a new phone. So if you'll check GoFundMe, that I'll start today on my Facebook page, and we lost him there. So, if you, and I picked that up, I think you guys did too, but he thinks 5 wins are attainable, and that the crowd, and I'll say this, that there was and I hadn't been to a home game in a while. I'm going to admit that, and I was in the Bud Light Garden, so there may have been some influence on how much fun I was having, courtesy of Will Fisher distributing, but it was fun, and the flyover and the music, and, that's a credit to Kelsey Tolbert, the new director of marketing for athletics they brought in. She's got some new ideas, and the stadium looks cool with the most stayed up there in the stands and all that. It just feels different. Sully, do you get that same feel?
Yeah, I went to a couple games last year, saw the environment, saw what it felt like. Even during their long win streak last season, it wasn't as exciting as it was for that SMU game. For the tailgate, I was out in the tailgate doing a story there. To the game itself, the student section was packed. Like, that's what they need to have happen. They got to show that they can outgrow this stadium. I think that's kind of the idea when it comes to Missouri State right now. Like, you have this foundation. It's kind of like, playing that college football video game where it's like you need to continually improve and stack up wins and stack positive things to show that you are going to make noise at this level. So when it comes to, I think Corey, 5 wins, I think that is definitely reasonable. They got 1 under their belt. I feel like they're going to win this weekend against UT Martin. And then to me, I think Conference USA football, it's certainly improved from where the Bears were, but the Bears seem to be pretty improved as well. I think 5 is very manageable, and I could even go as close to saying they could end up closer to 500 if things really break their way and they play the way they played in that first half against SMU. I think Jacob Clark being a 7th-year senior is almost like a cheat code because he's seen everything you can see in college football. That is such a huge difference for that team. Quarterback play will take you so far at this level, and they certainly have a quarterback that is going to get pro looks and is going to be a guy that has a chance to play at the professional level. And then that defense is tenacious, man. I think Ryan Beard nailed it this week at his press conference. He said Missouri State are the kings of doing more with less. When you talk about SMU and you talk about USC and all the NIL they could ever want at their fingertips, that's obviously not a reality for the Bears. But they find a way to find guys that want to play and just have the power and belief that this program can go out and compete with the best. He said he's fine eating Uncrustables with the Bears while USC eats steaks and lobster. So if there's any Uncrustable NIL reps watching this, it could be a chance to give Ryan Beard a call because he loves those peanut butter and jelly treats.
Well, he's got 37 kids or something like that, so that might come in handy in the Beard household too.
That's
But,
that's like the base of his food pyramid is Uncrustables.
Exactly. Parker, I'm an old school high school guy. I cut my teeth on that at the News Leader back in the 80s and my first 10 years. And it's just kind of cool to go to a Bears game, a Division I FBS Bears game, and see Ramon Green, playing a key role, and JJ O'Neal and, local guys. And that's what I like about this. Do you have the same feeling when you check the Bear or watch the Bears game or check the box score the next day?
Oh, absolutely. And, I've been a big fan of this move for reasons like that. It elevates the entire university. The move, even if it is the lowest of low for FBS with the CUSA just breaking in. The thing I've been saying about all of this is now, before this year, the best thing that could happen to the Bears was an FCS national championship. And in the national consciousness, that doesn't really mean anything. Everybody just knows North Dakota State, it's North Dakota, Montana, it's someone like that. But now it's the best, but a college football playoff appearance was impossible for this year. But now you can dream. You can dream about one day. The season breaks right. You win your first few games. Everybody gets excited. You start seeing all these local kids that they're really starting to be able to pull here, and some of them playing on a big stage in big stadiums. And that's the thing that's excited me about this the most. For me, a question I actually have for you, Scott, is do you feel like they should have done this sooner? Do you feel like this should have happened back in the JQH days?
Well, and I'll say this. When I started trying to figure out who these teams were in Conference USA, they were teams that were like the Bears trying to make this move 5-10 years ago and did for a large part. Because when I heard Conference USA originally, my first thought was Memphis and Houston and, those schools back in the day when the league started. And then I went and looked at it and go, oh, well, these are teams that were where the Bears are now when they were in the Valley 5-10 years ago and just made the move sooner. So, yeah, I agree. I don't know if they had their ducks in a row financially or if, they've had to do some improvements to plaster, just to televise the games. I saw where Brandon Hyde had, kind of gave a tour of all the things they had to put money into to do that. So, it's a process. And honestly, and this is not, I don't mean this to be a tremendous knock, but I think the leadership they have in place now is with Patrick Ransdell and his staff and the president are people that can move this forward. Maybe the timing is right and was waiting for that kind of leadership to take office. So, but it'll be interesting to see the Bears home with Tennessee Martin this week. Got a text during the podcast that Marty Prather is stable and his vitals are improving slightly. So again, our thoughts and prayers with him. Apologize for the technical difficulties with Corey. We'll get that figured out. The Corey Riggs GoFundMe for a new phone will start tomorrow. Sully and Parker, appreciate it. We'll have you back again here in a few weeks. Let's do this again, okay?
Will do.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Sounds like a plan.
And you bet. Appreciate it. You'll see those guys on the Ozarks Sports Zone, Ozone, and KY3 do a great job with that. And as we mentioned, they are kind of the source now for all things coverage with some of our options taken away there. So wanted to close things out by thanking our sponsors. Big thanks to the Pitch Pizza and Pub. They're located in the Southern Hills Shopping Center off East Sunshine. Home of great pizzas, calzones, appetizers, got tremendous salads, always frosty cold beverages. They've got meeting spaces for your networking groups, birthday parties, anything you got going on. Give Brian Bevel and the folks over at the Pitch a call. They'll get you set up. And then, of course, Thompson Sales, where the Thompson boys have been dealing since 1919. They're located at 1555 East Independence in South Springfield. And that is your home for all the Cadillac, Buick, and GMC cars and trucks, new and used, you can muster there at Thompson Sales. Great service department as well. They'll take care of you from the purchase all the way to the end of your ownership of that car until you're ready to trade it in again. It's Thompson Sales. That's going to do it. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties. We'll get that figured out. Thanks for tuning in to 4 Guys and 4 Topics on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. We will see you next week.